Eric, I tweeted a picture of my dog Jamie laying on me, displacing my internal organs while I screamed at Chuck Todd, and I was thinking of you. because as you know, both sides do it, and Democrats and Republicans really are in disarray, as you can imagine.
Right, but Jonathan Karl stole the show yesterday with his pathetic interview of Steve Scalise on ABC.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, would you like some? That. Oh yes, please. Yeah. Cut 11, Sean. Please let's torture Eric again because we love him the best.
Joe Biden won the election. He is the legitimate president of the United States. The election was not stolen, correct?
Look, Joe Biden's the president. There were a few states that did not follow their state laws. That's really the dispute that you've seen continue on. And look, if you're Joe Biden, you probably want to keep talking about impeachment and anything other than the fact that he's killed millions of American energy jobs.
Okay. So he would not say, yes, Joe Biden won a free and fair election, correct?
Yeah, and this happens all the time on the Sunday shows. He introduced kind of this new nugget. Well, it's important to realize Scalise came straight from Mar-a-Lago, right?
Yes. So which apparently he got there accidentally. He said, I was in Florida, and somehow Yeah.
And so he obviously, got his talking points, and he kind of introduced this new one, new specific one. There was a few states that didn't follow the rules. Jonathan Karl, there was a good opportunity there to just completely eviscerate Scalise. And, I was never, the biggest Tim Russert fan. I had problems with his approach, but Tim Russert would never sit there and listen to people lie. Tim Russert kind of wanted to be the district attorney in some ways, and he would show that off.
Yeah.
And that does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
As I tweeted, they think their job is to book Republican politicians, and that's where their job ends.
Yeah.
Jonathan Karl very meekly, very timidly said, well, we know Biden's the president, but it was a free and fair election. And he just gave him Scalise 90 seconds to just ramble on, talking about how Biden wants talking about impeachment. Oh, Biden hasn't mentioned impeachment in 2 months. He specifically doesn't care about impeachment.
Yeah, and when he's asked about it repeatedly, here's Scalise. Please, I'm sorry to do this to you again. But yes.
So I'm asking about Donald Trump's role in this. You heard, again, Kevin McCarthy. Do you agree with what he said? That he bears responsibility for what happened?
Well, again, you can go back and look at the impeachment trial, the second impeachment trial. It seems like all they've done since the day he walked into office was try to impeach him. But again, when you look at that trial, they ran a clip of pretty much every United States senator who voted to impeach President Trump, who talked about things like go and fight like hell and other things like that.
So you're saying he doesn't bear responsibility?
When you look at President.
Wow. I mean,
oh my God.
Can I say, I don't know who the blonde anchor is, Eric, on CNN. She's one of the only people I've seen that I think she had Mark Short on that slapped down all this election suit nonsense. But I mean, that's what journalists need to do. Is she just was prepared with nope, 60 lawsuits, X, Y, Z, like every talking point they had. That's all we're asking is just fact check, right?
Yeah, and again, the Sunday Network shows they just are basically potted plants. Jonathan Karl could have mentioned the 60 lawsuits. He could have mentioned all kinds of things. But then at the end, he says, thank you, Steve Scalise, for joining us. Again, they literally view their job is to make sure they can book enough Republicans to come on their show. No fact checking. And this is why they're going to be doing this in May, in June, next October. They're going to be allowing Republicans to come on.
Yeah.
And the talking point is, well, millions of Republicans are still concerned about the election, so therefore it's a legitimate topic for conversation. It's not.
Yeah.
They should be allowed.
And you would think I hate you, but it's because I love you best that I want to cut 14, please. That I want to inflict Ron Johnson on you about Texas.
What we saw in Texas certainly shows what folly the Green New Deal would be, how unreliable wind and solar power generation really is, and how it needs fossil fuel backup. We've also learned how vulnerable our grid is to again, the unreliable green energy, but also potentially to geomagnetic disturbance from the sun, solar winds, and also potentially EMP attacks.
Travis, was there any pushback against that particular thing on whatever show you got that from? Or just curious?
No, there was not.
Okay.
He was on with Maria Bartiromo. So.
Oh, okay. Eric,
okay.
Eric,
there's only two things pushing back on him.
Okay, Eric, you're witness, Eric.
No, it's kind of like a buffet. Early last week they went for the wind turbine thing. It didn't really. I mean, I'm sure lots of people believed it, and their followers believed it. Actually, the New York Times did a really good front page piece. Or I think it was around Thursday. They wouldn't call it a lie, but they're saying, look, there's no truth to this. The failed wind turbines, I think, were 5% of the energy that was lost, or 10% of the.
Yeah.
And I think the crisis and Ted Cruz became such a massive story that the wind turbine wasn't going to cut it. But it's interesting. That's what they grab onto. They're going to go after the New Deal. They're going after renewable energy. But in the end, the catastrophe and the disaster and the death just completely overtook that talking point. Although Ron Johnson, of course, is still going to peddle it on Fox News.
But this is why your piece was so great. Defending Cancun cruise, GOP media suddenly claim optics don't matter. I mean, this is the story. There could not have been more levels of awful, and it will just shows you they will defend anything if it's a conservative. I mean, who was it? Dinesh D'Souza said the simple truth is senators don't do a whole lot other than vote. The rest of it is mainly fundraising, posturing, photo ops, etc. I mean, you can only imagine if this were a Democrat, right? And you say, who was it? Ben Shapiro said, it's not a real-time crisis that Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, can do anything about. I mean, do they expect Ted Cruz to go there with a blowtorch and start defrosting all the pipelines? I mean, as you say, just this month, Fox News tried to create a controversy over the fact that Joe Biden was scheduled to fly home to Delaware, pointing to CDC guidelines which urge Americans not to travel. Fox suggested hypocrisy was in play. Again, Jen Psaki, God love her, has 1,000 times more patience than I do. She just paused and was like, as you know, the president has access to a private plane. Like, really? Do we have to say this? Like, it's like, okay. Anyway.
Yeah, so the Biden thing, obviously, the CDC, don't travel because you can expose yourself to a crowded plane. Not exactly a problem on Air Force One. But my point was, a conservative movement, and particularly under Trump, I mean, outrage and optics are the protein that fuel this entire movement.
Yeah.
So it was just incredibly, almost hysterical and funny to watch them say optics don't matter. You had Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro said, "Well, the Cruz optics don't look good." Okay, I'll give you that, but it doesn't matter. And his argument was, U.S. senators are essentially powerless. They have no. They can't get in touch with FEMA. They can't leverage their power to get money from Congress. They can't even go door to door and help people. They're completely powerless.
Yeah.
So of course they should go to Mexico. And I quoted someone on, one of the further right networks saying, well, they've got power in Mexico. He's probably helping constituents more down there because he could get online and stuff. But the idea that optics don't matter. Right, these are the people that couldn't sleep at night because of the size of Nancy Pelosi's freezer and how much ice cream he had.
I'd forgotten about that one, and I was like, you mean because she's a grandmother that has 1,000 grandkids, so she keeps a lot of ice cream, and that's the story? Because why?
Right.
Yeah.
But it was telling that they were really scrambling to find any kind of defense, and they kind of coalesced around this idea that optics don't matter, and Ted Cruz is powerless, and everyone should just do whatever they want, and even if it looks bad. We're never going to say anything. I mean, these are the people that freaked out when Obama wore a tan suit. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Fox is going to do a lot of stories, as you call it, about GOP deregulation madness and people's $16,000 electric bills on top of what's just happened in Texas. I mean, it's Republican policies have been such a failure. They literally have to, like Ron Johnson, make up something. The Green Deal hasn't passed anywhere. How can you blame the Green New Deal? As you say, it's not even 5% of their energy. I mean, it's anyway. Okay. And it's because they didn't winterize it. It's not because it doesn't work. It works fine everywhere else. Anyway, go ahead.
It works in Iowa. It works in Antarctica. Look, this is the deregulation W. Bush signed into law in Texas. This is the deregulation. Texas wanted its own grid. They did not want to be part of a national grid. They did not want to be part of a regional grid. We're going to do this fine. And the state of Texas, did not require power plant providers to have a worst case scenario. They could literally do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it worked until it didn't.
Eric, let's talk real quick because we just talked about this pretty big, the Supreme Court, Donald Trump's taxes. I mean, and this is why I'm wearing my Spanky McDumbass in prison shirt because I think we are getting closer by the day. Yeah. And we were saying his entire, like the New York Times piece, Michael Cohen, everyone, his entire business model has been fraud his entire life. And it will be interesting, since this apparently is still the party of Trump, is what they're going to do. As he, you know, I mean, this is, I have to say, this is amazing, this new polling. GOP voters who supported Trump are willing to leave the Republican Party and join a Trump-centered, so this will be a prison-centered party, Travis? Or, okay. By 46% to 27%, they would leave and go to a Trump party. But more stunning, almost 60% of Trump voters say it was mostly an Antifa attack on the Capitol.
Oh, God.
Right? Okay, 28% said it was Trump supporters. Only 4% said it was an attempted coup inspired by Donald Trump. But I mean, this is a party so disconnected from reality and facts at this point. I mean, you know, it really is. I know the storyline is still Democrats in disarray. But this party, right, between the establishment of McConnell and Trump, I mean, this is a party we're watching implode in real time, aren't we?
Oh, we absolutely are. And, you know, and we've called it a cult for years, and people, you know, mainstream press kind of rolled their eyes. I mean, those statistics you just rattled off, I mean, that's the definition of a cult. And so, look, you know, there is a McConnell camp. It's very small. There's a Romney camp. And they look at Trump and and not only do they see, you know, losing by 7 million, but they see what's going to unfold in terms of the legal. They see the tax returns. They see the criminal enterprise he was running from the White House. They understand in 4 years what the Trump brand is going to look like. I mean, his fanatics are looking 2 or 3 days ahead. They think it's the same brand as it was a month ago. He is going to take so many hits in so many ways. He doesn't have a legal team. He doesn't have, you know, the people to protect him anymore. He doesn't have a White House counsel. So he's going to get demolished. You know, this New York grand jury apparently is going to have the tax returns in a couple of days. You know, we have for years that he's been running a criminal enterprise out of the White House. And now we're going to know. Now we're going to know who he owes money to and what countries. And just real quick, you know, his casino got imploded in Atlantic City last week. There was live video, and there was hundreds of locals showed up in the cold in the morning because they are still owed money from that crook.
Yeah.
And
Oh, my
we're going
God.
to find out so many more people who built things for him, carpenters, electricians, owed money decades later. So that is what is going to emerge from these tax returns, I think. Just what a complete creep and crook, and it's going to get just worse.